This was one of the most harrowing vocal performances of this entire album making process. And I sat there and watched him blow his voice completely doing this.
He was red for 2 days after that.
This episode is being supported by Tape It, the iPhone recording app made for musicians by musicians.
Joe is a very honest performer. He's very much himself, and it's all like parts of his personality. But he's never really had in the tenderness. Joe's a very tender person. He's a very caring, like, friend. He's a very soft person often, and that hasn't really come across until this album. And I think he's really expressed something very tender and melancholic that is beautiful in the vocal on that.
We got to give it to Nige. Joe would give it to Nige too, because there was times where Nigel would say to him, how can someone else sing this song? That's not you. Because with Joe, he is such an unreal performer, and he can walk in and just give you this thing that like is one only he can kind of do, especially when it gets to like big scary Joe mode. There's not a lot of people that can compete with that. And there was times where Nige didn't push him to be vulnerable or push him to be more of anything, just saying, what's another way you could do this? And I like always worked in a way with the band where the way Bowen produces the band and them is their own thing that they've had since day one. But the way I've always worked with them is just championing everyone's ideas, no matter what they are. And so when Joe comes to me and says, this is the song, this is how I'm saying it, this is about my child, my life, my parent, whatever, these huge topics, I never say, well, can you do it different? Well, can you try it this way? Like, I don't do that. I don't do that when Bowen comes to me with these batshit insane Ableton sessions or crazy concepts. I just say, you know what? You guys have made so much stuff that I love that I'm just going to trust this. Yes, let's do this. What's the worst case? We'll delete it. But like, it was really, really, I don't know. It was just like such a shock for me to see Nige say those things to Joe, and then Joe have to reassess something that he had decided was a fact. This is what that song is. And then Joe and I would go in there, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't like he went right back in and goes, oh, here's a falsetto version of a big, tough song. But this was a process throughout the album of him finding a new fifth or sixth character for Joe that we haven't heard yet, because we've heard Soul Joe in other albums. We've heard the Bark Joe. We've heard, vulnerable, poetic Joe. And now some of the things you hear like on songs like Grace and on Gospel and on Monolith, it's almost more powerful than his most like typically powerful moments because of the restraint. And I do think that like conversations with Nige were big moments there, and Joe would agree with me 150%.
Time for a quick Tape It feature highlight. Among the various ways Tape It helps you organize your voice notes, you can create mixtapes. If you're working on a particular song or want to group specific ideas, you can add them to a mixtape. And the best thing is, you can invite bandmates or writing partners to collaborate on them so they can add their ideas to the mixtape as well. To find out more, head to the link to download Tape It for free or use the promo code TAPENOTES for 50% off Tape It Pro.
This was one of the most harrowing vocal performances of this entire album making process. And I sat there and watched him blow his voice completely doing this.
Wow. Are you able to isolate that? Would Joe like that isolated?
He won't mind. Yeah. I don't think he'll mind.
He was red for 2 days after that. It's like,
baby, I said, baby, baby, baby. Oh, wow, wow, baby, baby.
Whoa.
Yeah. He's brung me to tears a few times in working with him on the last couple albums, but there was a time on Crawler when he did Beachland Ballroom, and it was the last song of the entire record. He didn't do it till the last day when gear was getting packed out, and he did the entire song in one take, and it was his first take, completely as is. That was some of the most melodic, some of the most soulful singing Joe had ever done to date on that project. And when we were doing this song, not to like harken back to old music they'd made, but it felt to me like it was kind of that moment of this record in a way. And those songs, not that because they both had a waltz, not because of soul influence in both of them, it just felt like this is one of those huge spotlight on Joe, him letting 1000% of himself on the floor moments. And we had done most of the song, him and I, and just left it kind of saved and left the ending for a few days. And he wouldn't do it. I knew he wouldn't do it during the day. And I knew he had to do it on a day where he didn't have something crucial to sing the next day, because I knew he was going to give it 1,000. If you've ever seen Joe play live, if you ever really listen to the records, you know, like he's not holding back at all. And one night after dinner, I asked him, I was like, is it the night or whatever? And he had a real bad day with other shit that had nothing to do with the album, and was kind of a point where no one was going to ask Joe to do anything. And there was some part of me that was like, this is when he should do it. He doesn't want to sing today at all. Maybe he should do it today. And that was the day we did it. I think he did it maybe 3 times. And I think that performance is just from the third one, but he couldn't have done a fourth one. After that one, it was like he had extended himself to 100% of what he was capable of. And I've only ever seen people do that at the end of their wits, angry or in a fight or in emergency moments in their life. It's like what he does on a microphone. I've tracked thousands of artists in my life, nowhere near what Miko and Nigel have, but with Joe, it's like a very singular experience seeing something like that get sung into a microphone, and then him walk away and go have a cig, and me just sitting there with goosebumps like, I can't wait till people hear this, because you can feel it so instantly. You know, it's like, even if you don't understand the band or the song or the record or whatever, it's like those moments are like when you see them live and you're walking by their stage and you've never heard of Idols, and you go, I'm going to stay here for a second, because like 1 second of this made me feel, you know, everything I get from entire albums of other people. That was a real moment for me.